Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of Asian Battle Royale. If you missed the last one, a lot of stuff happened. Pakistan got divided up by India and Kazakhstan. Sri Lanka got annexed by India. A lot of countries started to leave the AAA, and most of them joined up into a new alliance called the MPA. Thailand merged into the Southeast Asian Federation with Laos, Cambodia, and the Arabs all had democratic revolutions that led to a new Arab alliance that is democratic. So with that, let's get right into it. So the first thing that happens is the Iranian state, now disillusioned with the rest of the Arab alliance, having not been democratic like the rest of them, has a tough decision to make because they know that they're right about to be divided up by the three neighbors they have, unless they choose one of them to be in an alliance with. And because they are basically an Islamic fundamentalist state, they're obviously going to side with the Taliban and join the AAA. And at this point, the AAA is not really living up to their name at all. Most of them are very aggressionist, and so they have another vote on whether or not to change their name from the Anti-Aggression Alliance, or AAA, to the Universal Asian Protection Alliance, or UAPA. This was a blowout. They are changing their name, and pretty much very shortly after they do, Mongolia and the Philippines, as well as Kazakhstan, all decide to leave the alliance because they no longer think it fits their interests. The alliance is no longer the good guy alliance. It is now an alliance of pretty much the strongest countries / the most authoritarian countries, because India is probably the strongest country at this point, though Vietnam is getting very close. Also, by design, Qatar is going to declare their independence from the union they were forced into with Saudi Arabia. This was 100% intended by the rest of the pact, because as soon as Qatar declares their independence, the rest of the pact basically tells Saudi Arabia they have to grant them independence. When Saudi Arabia says no, the rest of the pact kicks them out and starts dividing them up, because this was really what they wanted to do the whole time, but they waited until now to start doing it because they wanted to have a valid excuse. And because of that, Saudi Arabia isn't going to stand a chance, but don't think they're going to give Qatar independence. They also get invaded. And just like that, Saudi Arabia / Qatar has been divided up. Since a lot of countries were recently disillusioned with the AAA, the MPA is trying to, or I guess it's no longer the AAA, it's the UAPA. The MPA is trying to poach some of those members. The only one they're successfully able to do so with is Mongolia. However, Mongolia was the most powerful of them, so that's good. The MPA is now officially stronger than the UAPA. They were about equal before. Kazakhstan and the Philippines, as well as Indonesia, who left the AAA before they changed their name, also don't join because they've got other things they want to do. For example, Kazakhstan declares war on the Taliban using the justification of they're the Taliban, which is a good justification, but obviously the AAA is going to try and stop them. And so they're at war with, or the UAPA, sorry. So they're also immediately at war with Iran, but Tajikistan is falling pretty quickly, and they've already moved their capital back to Kabul, so that's not going to be a problem for them. However, Iran is starting to take some land around the Caspian Sea and is actually doing pretty well, invading into the Turkmen area of Kazakhstan, but like in the current day it's Turkmenistan. Anyway, Kazakhstan is not really focusing on that front. They're defending, but not as much as they should be, because they are doing pretty well since the Taliban themselves has kind of withdrawn to this front line right here to make it easier on themselves to defend. And it's at this point that Georgia makes an offer or makes a proposal to the rest of their alliance saying, hey, why don't we invade Iran at this point to help out Kazakhstan, who's trying to get rid of the Taliban, as well as get rid of Iran, who's probably our greatest enemy. And the rest of the alliance shoots them down. They're like, we don't need a war right now, especially because Jordan is currently lining up troops on the border of Lebanon, and they're all worried about that happening and basically telling Jordan that will be the end of them. They don't want another war because that'll give Jordan the excuse they need. Or I guess not the excuse, but you know what I mean. Anyway, Kazakhstan has kind of gotten to a standstill as some more Turkmen land is being taken by the AAA, who is now receiving troops from their allies. And this war is going to stall for a little bit, so I'm going to talk about another war that happens, which is that the war that I just said would happen is happening. Jordan, very quickly and pretty swiftly, moves troops into Lebanon, and unfortunately for Lebanon, they never really stood a chance. So they get captured, and right before Jordan is supposed to sign the law that says that they fully get annexed into Jordan, the Arab Accords offer an ultimatum to Jordan saying evacuate Lebanon and give them their full land or else, and Jordan takes the or else. And so Syria starts moving troops into Lebanon, which liberates it pretty quickly, and Israel-Palestine is also liberated from Jordan as they start losing a bunch of their Saudi land as well. And Jordan is losing pretty quickly, so they call out for help, and Iran, as well as the rest of the AAA, but especially Iran, tries to take this as an advantage or an opportunity to invade into Georgia, which works decently well, but they just make massive strategic mistakes. For example, leaving this coast undefended because they didn't actually think the Arab Accords would respond. Jordan is able to get a little bit of land back, but not as much as they had wanted because of that. But now Iran makes the strategic decision to withdraw from the war with Kazakhstan to focus on the other war. And because of this, Afghanistan is not doing well, as the Taliban has fled into Iran, and Iran is obviously sheltering them. And because of that, Afghanistan falls. And officially, because nobody's stopping them, Kazakhstan annexes Afghanistan, meaning they now have all of Central Asia. Things are not over yet, though, because we still have to resolve this war, which Iran basically sues for peace and is willing to give Georgia all of their land back, as well as giving up some of their own land in exchange for this war ending. So we'll see what that looks like at the end. Jordan is now officially on their own, and they are not going to survive this. So let's see what all of this looks like afterwards. Okay, this is the new state of Asia. After the war, so Lebanon gets this region of Jordan as well as joins the Arab Accords. A lot of division of Jordan happens. Iran had to cede some land, and Afghanistan is gone. Following this, Kazakhstan will officially join the Mutual Protection Alliance. The only reason they didn't before is they didn't want any pushback for annexing Jordan. And the UAPA is starting to feel really small at this point in comparison to the massive MPA. So they basically decide to change their name back to the AAA to try and get the Philippines to at least rejoin them, but the Philippines refuse because they know what they're about now. And now the UAPA cowers in fear as they just wait for their fate to unfold. India and the UAE, who are the leaders of their respective alliances, or I guess the de facto leaders, sign a mutual cooperation treaty. It doesn't really unite their alliances, but they're definitely both aligned towards each other more so than the UAPA is aligned with either of them. And one last event that happens in this episode is that after a long time coming, this was prepped for a while, Oman and the UAE will officially merge into one country. They still call it the UAE, but Oman is one of the Emirates, but it's also by far the most powerful and has 50% of the say. But it's still called the UAE. But with that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all that good stuff. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.